The comment wasn't meant for Bruce Lee. That's what makes it dangerous. The airport lounge is crowded, loud in that dull, constant way. Rolling suitcases, flight announcements echoing off high ceilings, tired travelers half listening for their gate number. Late afternoon, somewhere between departures and delays. Bruce Lee sits near the window, relaxed, a small carry-on at his feet. Simple clothes, no entourage, no attention. To most people here, he's just another short, lean man waiting for a flight. A group of martial artists stands a few meters away, loud enough to be heard, confident enough not to care who listens. One of them stands out immediately, tall, about 6 feet 1 inch, broad shoulders, calm posture, the kind of man who's used to controlling space without raising his voice. A black belt knot rests cleanly at his waist. Judo. He laughs and says it casually, like stating a fact everyone should already know. Kung Fu doesn't work. A few people chuckle. Someone adds, too flashy, too fake. The tall man nods. Against real grappling? Useless. Bruce doesn't react. Not at first. He keeps looking out the window as a plane taxis past, sunlight flashing across the glass. But his attention shifts. Not emotionally, structurally. He hears the weight behind the words, the certainty, the assumption. The man keeps talking. Louder now. I've tested it. Guys freeze once you grab them. No distance. No tricks. End of story. That's when Bruce stands. Slowly. Casually. No urgency. He turns, walks over, and stops just close enough to be included in the conversation. Excuse me, Bruce says politely. May I ask you something? The tall judoka looks down at him, surprised but amused. Sure. Bruce meets his eyes. Calm. Centered. What do you mean? Bruce asks. By doesn't work? The judoka smiles. I mean in a real situation. Bruce nods once. Then show me, he says. The laughter fades. And in less than 7 seconds, this airport will feel very quiet. The tall judoka glances at his friends like, is this guy serious? One of them smirks. You want a demonstration? Bruce nods. Yes, but safe. No injuries. The judoka rolls his shoulders. He's confident because this is a public place, because people are watching, because the smaller man in front of him doesn't look like a threat. All right, he says. I'll show you why it doesn't work. He steps forward and reaches for Bruce's arm, going for a simple grip. Clean. Direct. The kind of grip that starts a throw before you even realize the throw is coming. Bruce doesn't pull away. He lets the hand touch. That's the first mistake. The moment the judoka commits his fingers, Bruce moves. One small shift. Not backward, but slightly offline. His wrist rotates in a way that doesn't fight the grip, it unwinds it. In the same motion, Bruce's other hand slides to a pressure point near the elbow. Light contact, precise placement. The judoka's smile collapses. Not from pain. From the sudden loss of control. His grip weakens involuntarily. His shoulder angle opens. And his balance changes as if the floor tilted without warning. He tries to correct, tries to tighten, tries to force strength into the situation. Bruce doesn't resist. He redirects. A short step. A turn of the hips. A gentle pull that isn't a pull. It's a suggestion the judoka's body obeys because of physics, not cooperation. The judoka stumbles forward a half step, suddenly facing the wrong direction. His base is gone. Bruce stops. No throw. No slam. No humiliation. Just a quiet hold. Bruce's forearm lightly across the judoka's centerline. His hand resting near the neck, showing access without using it. The judoka freezes. His friends stop smiling. The airport noise seems to dim, like the world leaned in. Bruce releases him immediately and steps back. You said Kung Fu doesn't work, Bruce says calmly. Did you feel that? The judoka swallows. His voice comes out different. Yes. Bruce nods. Then perhaps you meant, you haven't met the right kind yet. The judoka rubs his wrist slowly, not because it hurts, but because it shouldn't have happened. He's replaying it in his head. The grip was correct. The entry was clean. The balance should have followed. That's how it always works. Except it didn't. What was that? He asks, trying to sound casual. Some kind of joint trick? Bruce shakes his head. No trick. The friends exchange looks. One of them laughs nervously. Come on, man. He barely touched you. Bruce nods. That's the point. The judoka squares up again, pride pushing him forward. Do it again, he says. For real this time. Bruce pauses. He looks around. Families passing by. A couple watching from a distance. An airport security officer glancing over, curious but not alarmed. We should keep it small, Bruce says. 7 seconds. That's enough. The judoka scoffs. You won't last 3. Bruce smiles faintly, not amused. Certain. Grab me however you like, Bruce says. I won't resist. That confidence irritates him more than arrogance ever could. The judoka steps in fast this time, wrapping both arms, trying to crush space. No finesse now, just size and strength. He's done this to heavier men. It works. Bruce exhales. As the grip closes, Bruce drops his weight, not down but through. His hips shift, his spine aligns, and suddenly the judoka is hugging something that doesn't push back but doesn't stay put either. Bruce's knee brushes lightly against the inside of the judoka's thigh. Not a strike. A check. The judoka's legs betray him. His balance collapses inward. His grip loosens reflexively. And in that exact moment Bruce turns his torso and steps past him. The judoka stumbles. Hard this time, catching himself on a bench. Gasps ripple through the nearby crowd. Bruce is already 3 steps away. 7 seconds. Bruce says quietly, glancing at a clock overhead. We're done. The judoka straightens slowly, breathing hard, face flushed. Not from exertion, but from realization. He doesn't laugh now. He doesn't argue. He looks at Bruce and says the one thing no one expected. Teach me. And just like that, an airport lounge becomes a classroom. Bruce doesn't answer right away. He looks around the airport lounge again. The announcements, the rolling bags, the people pretending not to stare while absolutely staring. This isn't a dojo. It isn't a stage. And that matters. Not here, Bruce says calmly. But I'll explain. The judoka nods quickly, almost too quickly. His friends have gone quiet now. The certainty they walked in with is gone, replaced by something heavier, questions. Bruce gestures toward an empty stretch of floor near the windows. Stand there, he says. Don't grab. Just try to move me. The judoka hesitates. Push. Push, Bruce confirms. The man plants his feet, bends his knees, and places both hands on Bruce's chest. He pushes hard. Not violently, but with intention. 185 centimeters of trained mass driving forward. Bruce slides back half an inch, then stops. The judoka pushes harder. His jaw tightens. His breath shortens. Bruce's feet don't move. Instead, his structure changes. His spine aligns. His shoulders drop. His weight settles in a way that feels wrong to watch, like gravity decided to cooperate with him personally. Feel that? Bruce asks. The judoka nods slowly. You're not fighting me. Bruce smiles. Why would I? Bruce shifts his angle slightly, just a few degrees. The pressure redirects not against Bruce but sideways. The judoka's force suddenly has nowhere useful to go. He stumbles forward again, catching himself, embarrassed now. Bruce steps back and speaks quietly, but everyone nearby hears. Kung Fu isn't about opposing strength, Bruce says. It's about understanding it sooner than the other person. The judoka swallows. Judo is about leverage. Bruce nods. So is life. A woman sitting nearby whispers to her husband, "Who is that guy?" Someone else pulls out a phone, but doesn't record, just stares. Bruce continues, "You trained to dominate space after contact. I trained to decide what happens before contact." The judoka lets out a slow breath. So it's not that Kung Fu doesn't work. Bruce meets his eyes. It's that you expected it to work the way you understand. Silence settles again. Not awkward. Respectful. The judoka bows his head slightly. Not formally. Sincerely. I was wrong, he says. Bruce returns the nod. And in that moment, the lesson becomes bigger than either of them. The judoka straightens up, slower now, like someone recalibrating his own body. His friends step closer, no longer amused, no longer defensive. Curious. One of them asks the question everyone is thinking. So, what would have happened if you wanted to finish it? Bruce doesn't answer immediately. He looks at the man's stance, the way his feet are placed, the tension still sitting in his shoulders. Then you wouldn't be standing, Bruce says calmly, and neither of us would have learned anything. That answer lands heavier than any throw. The judoka exhales through his nose. I thought effectiveness meant domination. Bruce nods. Most people do. That's why they lose control when domination fails. A flight announcement cuts through the air, reminding everyone where they are. A normal place, public place, life continuing around an abnormal moment. The judoka adjusts his belt out of habit. I've trained judo for 15 years, he says. I've put people down bigger than me. I didn't feel you resist once. Bruce gestures lightly. Resistance gives information. I prefer to take it away. The words echo. A nearby businessman pretending to read a newspaper lowers it slightly. A couple waiting for their flight watches openly now. No one's filming. No one's clapping. This isn't entertainment. It's understanding spreading quietly. So Kung Fu works. One of the friends says carefully. Bruce smiles faintly. Everything works when you understand why it exists. The judoka nods slowly. And when you don't? Bruce's expression hardens just a touch. Then it becomes performance. Another silence. This one different. Heavier. The judoka bows again, deeper this time. Thank you, he says, for not making me look foolish. Bruce returns the bow. You did that yourself, he says gently. And then you corrected it. That takes courage. The man laughs once, quietly. 7 seconds, he mutters. I talked for years, learned in 7 seconds. Bruce picks up his bag. That's usually how it happens, he says. And just like that, the moment starts to dissolve, but its effect doesn't. They walk together toward the seating area, not as opponents now, but as men sharing a quiet aftershock. The judoka keeps replaying the moment in his head. Not the stumble, not the loss of balance, the absence of resistance. That's what unsettles him most. I've always believed contact decides everything, he says. Grip, pressure, commitment. Bruce sets his bag down and sits. Contact is the result. Decision happens earlier. The judoka leans against a column, listening like a student despite himself. His friends hover a few steps back, unusually silent. In judo, the man continues, we wait for the mistake. Bruce nods. In Kung Fu, we assume the mistake already happened. The judoka frowns. How? By choosing to engage, Bruce replies. The moment you decided to grab me, you narrowed your options. I widened mine. A pause. That sounds unfair, the judoka says. Bruce smiles slightly. Reality doesn't care about fairness. A child runs past them chasing a rolling suitcase. A boarding call echoes. Life keeps moving, indifferent to the lesson unfolding in its middle. The judoka asks, so what should I have done? Bruce considers the question carefully. Nothing, he says. That would have been better. The man laughs, surprised. Do nothing? Not freeze, Bruce clarifies. But don't commit until you understand. Commitment without clarity is just hope wearing confidence. Those words sink in slowly. One of the friends finally speaks. You saying Kung Fu beats Judo? Bruce shakes his head immediately. No style beats another style. Understanding beats misunderstanding. The judoka nods. And I misunderstood. Bruce meets his eyes. For 7 seconds. That lands differently now. The man straightens, resolve replacing embarrassment. I'd like to train with you sometime, he says. If you'll allow it. Bruce picks up his bag again. If you're willing to unlearn first. The judoka smiles. I think I already started. They shake hands, firm, respectful, equal. And as Bruce turns to walk toward his gate, the judoka realizes something unsettling and liberating at the same time. He didn't lose a confrontation. He gained a new definition of strength. Bruce doesn't look back as he walks, but he can feel it, the shift behind him. The judoka isn't following to challenge anymore. He's following to understand. They stop near a row of seats facing the runway. Planes lift off one by one, engines roaring, bodies heavier than air learning how to move anyway. That's leverage, Bruce says quietly, nodding toward a plane taking off. Not strength. Understanding forces bigger than you and aligning with them. The judoka sits, slowly, thoughtfully. I've always thought efficiency came from pressure, he admits. More grip, more drive, more commitment. Bruce sits too. Pressure creates friction. Friction creates delay. The man rubs his palms together unconsciously, like he's feeling that delay for the first time. You never blocked me, he says. Not once. Bruce nods. Blocking assumes you're late. A long pause follows. Not awkward. Reflective. One of the judoka's friends finally breaks it. So what should he train differently? Bruce turns his head slightly. Awareness before technique. Structure before speed. Intent before contact. The judoka exhales. That sounds harder. It is, Bruce says. Because you can't fake it. That sentence hits deep. For years, the judoka trained to win exchanges, to dominate moments, to impose outcomes. But in 7 seconds, he learned something terrifying and freeing. Control doesn't come from force. Comes from options. A boarding call announces Bruce's flight. Bruce stands, slings his bag over his shoulder. I should go, he says. The judoka stands too, hesitates, then bows not as a ritual but as recognition. Thank you, he says, for showing me without hurting me. Bruce returns the nod. Thank you, he replies, for listening after being proven wrong. Most people don't. As Bruce walks away toward the gate, the judoka watches him disappear into the crowd. And for the first time in years, he doesn't feel the urge to prove anything to anyone. He feels the urge to learn. The story doesn't spread fast. It spreads correctly, not as gossip, not as spectacle, but as a quiet correction passed from mouth to mouth among people who know the difference between noise and truth. A judo coach hears it from a student who heard it from a friend who happened to be waiting for a delayed flight. A grappler mentions it after class not as a brag, but as a warning. There's more out there than what we drill. The judoka feels it first in training. His grips are still strong, but now he hesitates before committing. He notices angles, distance, timing. He realizes how often he used to rush certainty because it felt safe. Now certainty feels suspicious. During randori, he stops mid-movement once, confused. His partner looks at him. You okay? He nods. Yeah, I just saw something. That's the beginning of the change. He starts removing techniques from his training instead of adding them. Fewer throws, cleaner entries, less force, more listening. His coach notices. You're different lately, the coach says. The judoka considers lying. Instead, he says, I met someone at an airport. That sentence sounds ridiculous, but it's true. Weeks later, he tries to recreate the moment. He can't. Not exactly, because it wasn't a technique. It was a decision gap, the space where understanding beats strength. He realizes something else too. The 7 seconds weren't special because of speed. They were special because nothing was wasted. Every inch mattered. Every choice mattered. Nothing extra survived. And once you see that, it's impossible to go back to believing that something doesn't work, just because you don't understand it yet. The judoka begins to teach differently. He asks students questions instead of correcting them immediately. He lets them feel imbalance instead of explaining it away. Some leave, some stay. The ones who stay change. And somewhere, without knowing it, Bruce Lee's lesson keeps moving. Not as a style, not as a system, but as a standard. Years later, the judoka will struggle to explain what actually changed. People ask him if he learned kung fu, if he switched styles, if he abandoned judo. None of those are true. He still teaches judo, still loves it, still believes in it. But something fundamental shifted in how he interprets contact. Before, contact was the beginning. Now, contact feels like the end of a long chain of decisions, most of which happen before bodies ever touch. He starts noticing how often people argue about effectiveness without ever testing assumptions. How quickly confidence hardens into doctrine. How easily words like "doesn't work" become shields for ignorance. He remembers his own voice at the airport. Casual, certain, loud enough to be heard. He remembers how small the man was who stood up, and how quickly size stopped mattering. In seminars, when students ask which art is superior, he answers differently now. He says, "The one that shows you what you're doing wrong the fastest." Some students laugh. Some don't. The ones who don't stay. Sometimes, late at night, he replays the 7 seconds. Not the movements, but the feeling. The moment where strength met understanding and didn't know how to respond. He realizes that what unsettled him wasn't losing balance. It was losing authority over the situation. Authority he thought he earned through rank, size, and repetition. Authority Bruce never claimed, yet clearly possessed. That's the part that lingers. Because real mastery doesn't announce itself. It doesn't need validation. It doesn't argue online. It shows up quietly, answers a question honestly, and leaves before applause can form. The judoka starts telling his students one final thing at the end of class. If you ever say something doesn't work, he warns, make sure you're prepared to meet the person who proves you wrong. He smiles when he says it, because now he knows. Sometimes the lesson doesn't hurt. It just rearranges you. The airport never remembers moments like this. Flights continue. Announcements repeat. People come and go without knowing what almost happened between two strangers near a window. But one man remembers it every day. Not because he was embarrassed. Not because he was defeated. Because for 7 seconds, his certainty failed him. Bruce Lee never corrected him with theory. Never lectured. Never tried to convert him. He didn't need to. He simply showed what happens when understanding arrives before strength. That's the part that stays. Years later, when the judoka watches students argue about styles, grappling versus striking, old systems versus new, he doesn't interrupt. He lets them talk. Then he asks one question. Have you ever been proven wrong without being hurt? Most don't know how to answer. He smiles because he does. Bruce Lee didn't prove kung fu worked. He proved something far more uncomfortable. That effectiveness isn't owned by systems. It's owned by awareness. That size, rank, and confidence are only useful until they meet someone who understands timing, structure, and intent better than you do. That saying "this doesn't work" is easy, until reality asks you to explain why. The judoka never met Bruce Lee again. But he carries him into every class, every correction, every pause before commitment. 7 seconds in an airport didn't change his style. It changed his thinking. And once thinking changes, everything else eventually follows. That's why the story survives. Not because Bruce Lee won, but because someone else finally stopped pretending he already knew everything.